I don't want to get my hopes up too soon here, but I do think the BMW is in fact back, at least when it comes to the exterior design. The interior is a different story, but now we have this latest concept from BMW, and I think this is very, very, very close to what the next 3 Series and also the electric M3 that's coming up will actually look like, and I like what I'm seeing a lot here. So what we're gonna do in this video is, of course, talk about this new concept from BMW and talk about the technology that went into this. This is sort of a rolling lab, they say. They test a bunch of different technologies inside of this shell, and I think it sounds great. It has some very, very cool color shifting wheels, and the front end design I think is spot on, and it's so refreshing to see BMW finally dropping something that I think is worthy of a BMW design. I'm going to let you know exactly why I like this. Some people might not like it, but I think all the key features that is key for BMW is in fact intact in this design. And I'm going to show you the front side and rear, the interior in Photoshop later in the video. There's a lot to talk about here, so let's jump in straight in and let's see what this is all about from this article from Car and Driver. So BMW's the latest concept gives a clearer picture of the upcoming 3 Series EV. The vision driving experience hints at a production's car design and houses a super brain, which BMW calls Heart of Joy, which sounds a little cheesy maybe, but it's a very cool technology here. So that this aims to preserve BMW's driving dynamics. And what I really love about what BMW is doing here with the EVs, they are trying really hard to make EVs feel special, and I appreciate that a lot. And I think the next M3, which is I do believe is going to be both an internal combustion engine and also an EV, is in fact going to be a very special car to drive, whether you buy the internal combustion engine or the EV. So previewing the upcoming Neue Klasse EV, one of which will be an electric variant of the next generation 3 Series sedan. The concept's bodywork and interior are an evolution of the 2023 Vision Neue Klasse concept. Of course, we talked about that here on the channel, and same thing there. I really like what's going on with that design. So with sharp lighting and full width screen on the dashboard beneath the windshield, and this is the new Pano iDrive that we talked about a couple of videos ago. I also let you know what I thought about it. It is what it is. So BMW insists that the Vision driving experience itself, it's not bound for production, which I don't know about that. I mean, this looks like a production-ready design to me. Although the body looks like an evolution of the Vision Neue Klasse concept, it's not too far off from the spy photos of the next generation 3 Series, and we can see those right here. So here we have the next 3 Series, and you can see the proportions look very different from this car. This is more of a boxier, shorter wheelbase design. And the new 3 Series, of course, is going to be both an EV and an internal combustion engine. I think the wheelbase look great. Can't really see a lot of details here. If we zoom in and see the spy photos, you can see the front end looks to have this Neue Klasse design when it comes to the graphics at least, which is not a bad thing at all. I think the new 3 Series is going to be something cool. It's going to be something different for sure. There are a few differences though, however. The integrated headlights and grille elements is in fact thinner than the concept, which again, I think it's a cool idea, because when you have the thinner graphics, more stretched out graphics in the front, and what that does, it's gonna make the car look more wide and also more planted in the front end. There is also a larger opening in the lower front bumper, presumably to cool the batteries, of course. And BMW calls the concept a rolling test rig for drivetrain and driving dynamic management technology for the control unit that handles the drivetrain, braking, charging, regeneration, and steering functions. And this Heart of Joy, as they call it, will be found in every electric Neue Klasse model, BMW says, which presumably includes the upcoming iX3 electric SUV as well. And this is the first time the drivetrain and driving dynamic functions have been combined into one singular unit, and that is, I'm sure, going to make for a very unique driving experience. I cannot wait to drive this thing. It also has over 13,000 pound-feet of torque. Just mind-blowing. The EV Hummer has 11,000 pound-feet of torque, for example. And BMW claims that the system will make driving more enjoyable, but the automaker also says it would lead to better efficiency and range. So all win there. as it seems. So works in conjunction with the brand's dynamic performance control software to manage driving functions. You have everything combined into this Heart of Joy technology. The control unit reportedly processes information 10 times faster than the company's previous units. And here you can see these cool looking wheels that symbolize what you're doing. If you're stepping on the gas, if you're braking or whatever, it changes colors in the wheels. Pretty cool thing to see. I'm not sure if that specific detail is actually going to make it into production, maybe 10 years down the line. So the integrated braking and energy recuperation control allows the drivers to avoid applying the conventional friction brakes in most scenarios, meaning that you do, of course, have one pedal driving here. Instead, relying on regeneration. This is claimed to increase efficiency by up to 25%, and that is the main reason why every time I jump into a full EV, I always have the regen dialed up to 11 or max setting, because I think that just makes sense. I also enjoy one pedal driving. It's just relaxing to drive. So BMW is using the concept to experiment with colors changing wheels to demonstrate how the Heart of Joy system is working, showing green for acceleration, blue for energy recuperation, and orange if you're actually stepping on the brakes manually. So although BMW didn't specify how this illumination occurs, the company has experimented with this in the past. We saw it in the iVision D concept, which uses this e-ink, which you have in these reading tablets, for example, the same type of technology that they put outside of the car. I think it's cool. I think it's just something new and something interesting to check out. So the Heart of Joy will be one of 4 super brains that will control future BMWs. It will be accompanied by 3 other computer systems that control such things as automated driving, climate control, vehicle access, and interior and exterior lighting. There is a lot of technology here. Sometimes it's starting to feel like maybe there is a little bit too much tech going into cars these days. And I've said it before, like I feel like cars today, specifically EVs, they're definitely starting to feel more and more like sort of internal consumer electronics. But again, we have to move forward somehow when it comes to technology. So a large, unusually shaped hexagonal screen sits in the center of the dashboard, talking about the interior here. And then you have this Pano iDrive right here. We're gonna have a look at this closer in a minute in Photoshop here, where you can just slide your favorite apps and it will always be visible here right underneath the windshield. I don't know about this. A thin display stretches across the width of the car, providing info such as time and speed, a similar setup that we saw in the Vision Neue Klasse. The concept car seems to be going into the production version of both this concept here. Obviously it's not going into production, but also in the new 3 Series, I think we're going to have this system. So BMW has confirmed the first Neue Klasse model will start production later this year. And then you have the new 3 Series should go on sale sometime in the next several months. So it's not very far out until we get to see the production version of this. So with that said, let's check out this video by BMW about this car and let's see what this is all about. I have not checked this video myself, so we're gonna see it together here and see what this comes down to.
Dieses Fahrzeug zeigt die Erfahrung aus 100 Jahren Fahrdynamikentwicklung.
Wenn man sich die Zahlen vor Augen führt, in den 12 Monaten, in 75.000 Stunden ein Fahrzeug aufzubauen, was am Ende fast 18.000 Newtonmeter auf die Straße bringt.
Dieses Fahrzeug ist die Ultimate Driving Machine im übernächsten Level. Der VDX, das ist für uns der, ich nenne es mal den Challenger. Ja, der challenged unser Superbrain, unser Heart of Joy. Ja, und die Logik darin, die in-house entwickelt wurde, ja, die BMW Dynamic Performance Control, zum absoluten Limit. Wenn es in diesem Auto funktioniert, wo wir die Limits der Physik quasi verschieben, dann funktioniert es auch draußen in der
We're also going to check out a video after this, short video that shows you what this sounds like. I think the sound of this is very, very cool as well.
Serie in der neuen Klasse.
Die Aufgabe bei dem Fahrzeug war ja, vollkommen neue Wege zu beschreiten, was physikalische Grenzen angeht. Und dazu mussten wir uns da entscheiden, eine aktive Aerodynamik in dieses Fahrzeug einzubauen und können einen zusätzlichen Anpressdruck von über 1200 Kilo darstellen durch diese aktive Aerodynamik.
So I didn't notice that at first, but I guess it has active aero. I think that is probably going to be something we're going to see on the M3 EV. 1,200 kilos of downforce, that is a lot of additional downforce.
Und das erlaubt uns halt Querkräfte von über 3G in diesem Fahrzeug aufzubauen. Und das sind komplett andere Dimensionen, die man eigentlich so aus einem Pkw nicht gewohnt ist.
Das heißt, Bremseneingriffe müssen später kommen. Wir haben geringe Latenzen zwischen Antrieb und Bremse. So ist das gesamte Fahrerlebnis, das geht Hand in Hand. Das ist seamless. Die Übergaben zwischen diesen in-house entwickelten Regler, die sind so weich und rund, dass der Kunde es gar nicht spürt. Der spürt ein neues Fahrerlebnis, das Auto folgt ihm und gleichzeitig ist er effizient unterwegs. Mit dem Heart of Joy und der BMW Dynamic Performance Control schaffen wir es, bis in den Stillstand zu rekuperieren.
That's pretty cool,
und das auf so eine ganz smoothen Art und Weise, dass wir es als...
So when you're accelerating, it turns green. When you're recuperating, regen braking, it's orange, I do believe, and then red when you're actually stepping on the brakes. I could be wrong with the colors there, but I think it's a cool idea.
Den komfortabelsten Anhaltevorgang seit Erfindung des Rades bezeichnen.
Am Anfang hat die Vorsicht überwogen an den ersten Testtagen, ob alles so funktioniert, wie man sich das ausgedacht hat. Man hat akribisch die Daten analysiert, ob das Fahrzeug genau das macht, was man sich vorher auf dem weißen Blatt Papier ausgedacht hat. Weil wir extrem viele neue Wege beschritten sind, waren da auch viele Unbekannte dabei. Und nach den ersten 3, 4, 5 Testtagen dann zu sehen, es funktioniert alles, das Zusammenspiel klappt, das Fahrzeug ist in der Lage, genau das abzuliefern, wofür wir es designt haben, erfüllt einen dann am Ende halt auch mit Stolz.
Dieses Fahrzeug ist ein Prototyp, ein Testrig und es ist der neuen Klasse sehr ähnlich. Und Sie können sicher sein, Sie werden die Funktionen, die wir mit diesem Fahrzeug entwickeln, zukünftig in allen elektrischen Fahrzeugen der neuen Klasse wiederfinden.
Die Kraft von diesem Auto, die uns alle gepackt hat, ist an der Stelle tatsächlich unbeschreiblich.
Jeder, der dieses Auto einmal gefahren ist, in dem steckt ein Heart of Joy.
Look at this design. This is what I like, that they made the front-end graphics thinner. You can see just how thin the kidneys are here and how they stretch all the way into the fender. And this makes it, look how planted this thing looks. I'm a huge fan of this design, and I also cannot wait to see what the production model is going to look like. I want to show you one more video of just how what this sounds like, because the sound is very, very cool as well. Sounds like a spaceship to me. I mean, that's it reminds me of the styling that they do in Japan, where they put all the lights and LEDs on their Aventadors and Lambos. It looks very similar to that. But still, it's an innovative idea, and I like to see BMW experiment with stuff like this. I'm talking about the wheels here. So it sounds pretty cool, and it looks like a very, very fun car to drive for sure. So with that said, let's jump in to Photoshop and let's check out this design. Let's see what this is all about. I'm going to let you know exactly why I think this is such a cool design and a great BMW design as well. So here we are in Photoshop with the new BMW concept, and let's start with my favorite view of this car, which is by far going to be the front end design. The rear end looks a little strange. We're gonna talk about that as well when we look at the side view and the rear, of course. So looking at the front end, and the reason why I personally think this is a great BMW design is, as I said, we have all the key components for a BMW that we've seen throughout history. They're all intact here. And what do I mean by that? First of all, we have these graphics in the front end stretched out all the way to the fenders here, as you can see. Now, what do we need to have in a BMW in order for it to be a BMW? We need to have two elements for the light integration, meaning that we need, the old Angel Eyes, the old two round headlights that we had going back since, I don't know when, the 70s maybe, something like that. And we do have that here. We do have two LEDs, daytime run lights right here, symbolizing this specific design element, which are the two elements in the front end. We also need to have two kidneys, and we do have that here, even though in this case, as you can see, the kidneys themselves morph in and they sit in the same housing as the light setting, the headlights. And I do think this is a very cool integration and so and a nice step forward, a nice evolution of what we've seen from BMWs in the past. Looking at the lower section here, we do have a massive intake, and this being an all-electric vehicle with a lot of power, of course, over 13,000 pound-feet of torque. We need to have a rather large opening in the lower section. You can see that the grille itself, I'm not sure if this is still illuminated like we saw on the Neue Klasse Concept, or if this is just a static graphic that we have inside of the kidneys. But you can see that we do have the main cooling down here, which in my opinion looks maybe a little too static. I would like to have an angle of this area here. I want to have it be an angle and then go into the side corner here, something like this, and not just straight down, which you can see clearly from a front view. We also have these fins inside here, which I'm sure has something to do with the active aero and also to funnel air into the right places of whatever is hiding inside there. And the wheels just look great, very cool looking wheels. Probably extremely expensive though if you ding them, if you drive up on a curb. Not sure how much that is going to cost. Then we have the hood here. We have some interesting black slot here that I'm not sure what this is. It looks like a panel gap, but I'm sure it's not. It's probably something else that has some functionality to it. And we also have these two lines that we've seen in a lot of BMWs recently, the M3, the M4. They all have these two lines that goes in, and then you have the BMW logo usually sitting right there in the middle. So the proportions of this, looking at the front end design, it looks very cool. It doesn't really necessarily have the EV proportions to me. This looks like it could potentially house some sort of engine underneath this hood. Now looking at the side view proportions and the graphics, and another reason why I think this is a proper BMW is if you look at the roofline here, we're going back to a more boxy design that I wanted to see for a long time from BMW. And in addition to that, we also have the Hofmeister kink. It is a proper Hofmeister kink in this case. It's not some sort of version of it that we saw in the 5 Series, for example, which we can sort of say that it is a Hofmeister kink. Here, it is clearly visible. As you can see, we have 4 doors. Two in the back, and also the front door right here. You can clearly see the cut lines, even though this is heavily camouflaged. We have the wheels, and the wheelbase look pretty short to me, and that has to do with, of course, this being an EV, and also if you want to have a fun car to drive that handles well and corners well, you don't necessarily want to have too long of a wheelbase. The shorter the wheelbase, the more fun it is in the corners. Now, one detail that I think is pretty interesting here is the rear end design, how high up these taillights sit. And this is something that maybe I want to change, maybe I want to lower the taillights a little bit, and I also want to have a bumper, the bumper in the lower section. This is maybe the bumper or the diffuser, I'm not entirely sure, but you can see what point is sticking out the farthest. It is going to be this corner right here. What I want to do is have something like this instead, so have the bumper being the piece that sticks out the farthest down here, because it's going to lower the mass, it's going to bring down the weight visually in the rear end. And as I said, maybe move down the taillights here. But the overall proportions, I think it looks solid. It looks like a unit, this thing. Very short overhangs in the front end. Pretty short overhang in the rear as well. And we have a huge greenhouse here. In addition to that, it looks like we have a huge body panel here as well. But I do think this greenhouse, if you look at this, the glass goes down pretty far here. We could potentially make it a little squintier or short or less tall by just covering this piece up with the bodywork, but of course that is going to affect the visibility out of this car, and we don't want it to be another Camaro, for example. Now looking at the rear end, before I look at the interior, here you can see the rear end graphics, just how high up and how far up on the rear these taillights sit. This is something that I don't necessarily dislike, but it just looks a little strange, because what this creates is, you can see now we have all this panel being completely empty. There is nothing going on here, and I do think we need to have something in this area to break this facade that we have in the rear end, and that would probably be helpful if we moved down the taillights a little bit, a couple of inches to this area or something like that. We can still have this ducktail up top. I think that is beautiful, and we have a massive, super aggressive diffuser down here. at the bottom with these openings probably has something to do here with the active aero, or maybe that's happening underneath here somewhere. But overall, I think the exterior design is, honestly, I think this is a step in the right direction for BMW, because now we have this. This to me is the confident BMW front fascia that I wanted to see for so long in BMWs, and I think it's slowly coming back. This has this wide, aggressive front stance to it with, as I said, the key elements of BMW being intact here in the front end, looking very, very beautiful. Now looking at the interior, and this is a different story for me. Looking at the interior, it looks almost production ready to me. Here we have this panel iDrive screen where you can move apps from inside of this infotainment screen to slide them up here, which favorite apps you want to see. I guess the gauge cluster or the speedometer is always going to be visible right in front of the driver. Steering wheel looks very funky. I'm not sure what these crystal things are. There's probably a lot in here that is just for testing and nowhere near production ready, and I do think these pieces right here are part of that. And then you have the drive modes, I guess, situated down here. You can see just how industrial and just pure functional these look. This is definitely something that's going to be redesigned, of course, for the production version. You can see reverse, park, we have some knobs here, and probably drive modes or something like that. Hazard button in the middle. The seats look proper M seats to me. You have the carbon fiber bucket seats here, looking very cool. Not sure if that is either going to make it into production. I do like the design of the side mirrors. I like when we have a very, very thin sort of stalk that connects to the body like we have here, and then a big side mirror like this. I think this looks very cool. Reminds me of Aston Martin side mirrors. It just makes it look sporty and exotic and nimble to me. So overall, man, this BMW is going to be extremely interesting to see what it looks like in production version, specifically the 3 Series, because I think the 3 Series is going to have extremely close graphics to what we see here. But as we saw in the spy photos, they're going to be completely different, the 3 Series, in proportions, with a longer wheelbase, since it has to be an internal combustion engine and also an EV. I think it's going to have these graphics with much more traditional proportions, and I think it's going to be a very, very good looking BMW when we see it later this year.